Welcome the anointed ones. Some births shake a room, yours shook an entire order. From the moment you cried your first cry, something about you disturbed the atmosphere. And no, this isn't exaggeration. It's documented in patterns across history. Every time a person is born with a different frequency, the resistance begins early. Why do you think some children get targeted before they even understand the world? Why do you think your life felt like a battlefield before you even had weapons? Here's a fact. Predators don't chase the ordinary. They hunt what carries rare value. Lions don't waste energy on dead animals. They go for the living ones full of fire. In the same way, the opposition that's been after you since birth was proof of your worth, not evidence of your weakness. You weren't being attacked because you were fragile. You were being attacked because you were loaded. And let's be real. Looking back, don't you find it strange how much effort people, systems, and even family put into keeping you in line? It's almost comical. You were just trying to live, but the way they reacted, you'd think you were a walking revolution. Spoiler, you are. This is what they never wanted you to realize. You weren't born into neutrality. You were born into impact. You were not designed to blend. You were designed to disrupt. And deep down, they always knew it. That's why the chase started before you even understood the game. Stay with me, because by the end of this, you'll understand not only why you've been hunted since birth, but also why every attempt against you failed, and why your very existence is still shaking the structures that thought they had you figured out. Number 1. You were born with a spirit that can't be owned. You were born with a spirit that cannot be owned. And that fact alone has made your life feel like a constant tug-of-war. From the start, there was something in you that refused to bow, even when you didn't have the language to explain it. Most people are easy to shape. They're told who to be, what to believe, and where to fit, and they accept it without much resistance. You, on the other hand, were never that easy. The moment someone tried to box you in, you slipped out of it. When they tried to push you into their mold, something inside you resisted. That resistance wasn't arrogance, it wasn't rebellion, just for rebellion's sake. It was your soul knowing it could never belong to anyone but the one who sent you. This is why authority figures, systems, and even your own family found you difficult. They couldn't own you. And let's be honest, the world has a deep obsession with ownership. Parents often feel entitled to own their children's destiny. Society wants to own your choices. Institutions want to own your beliefs. Friends and partners try to own your identity. But in your case, ownership was impossible. And that made people furious. They labeled you stubborn, ungrateful, defiant, when in reality, you were simply unchained. There's a danger in being unownable, because people who can't control you will often try to destroy you. It's human nature. What they can't possess, they want to silence. You probably noticed how early on people tried to break your will. Discipline that went too far, pressure to conform, punishments that felt extreme. That wasn't normal correction, it was an attempt to clip wings they couldn't claim. Yet here's the twist. Their failure to own you became the very evidence that you were never meant to be theirs in the first place. The frustration others felt with you was really the friction of your calling rubbing against their attempts at control. Deep down, they recognized what you didn't fully know yet. You belonged to something higher. That's why even when they thought they had you cornered, you found ways to slip free. It wasn't luck, it was design. You've lived your whole life as proof that some spirits are simply too vast to be caged. And no matter how much pressure came against you, the unownable part of you only grew stronger. That's not defiance, that's destiny. Number 2, your energy interferes with their programming. Your energy interferes with their programming, and that has been one of the greatest sources of conflict in your life. Most people live on scripts, unspoken codes handed down from family, culture, or society. They learn to smile when they don't mean it, to say the right words while hiding the truth, to keep up appearances even if it kills them inside. These scripts work well for the majority because nobody questions them. But the moment you step into the room, the script doesn't flow the same. Suddenly, what was hidden starts to feel exposed, and people don't always know why. They just sense that something about you makes their mask feel too heavy to wear. It's not that you call them out or confront them with accusations. Most of the time, you don't even say much. It's your energy itself, your presence, your aura, your vibration, that pulls the truth to the surface. You might have noticed how people get defensive around you for no reason, or how they over-explain themselves when you haven't even asked a question. That's not random. It's because, in your presence, their programming doesn't run smoothly. It glitches. And nothing frustrates people more than feeling like their carefully rehearsed act suddenly stops working. This is why you've often been misunderstood. People projected onto you, assuming you were judging them when really all you did was exist. They confused the discomfort of their own exposed truth with some attack coming from you. But in reality, your spirit carries a frequency that makes it impossible for lies to sit comfortably. The light in you interferes with the systems they use to survive. And because so many people build their entire lives on those systems, on pretending, hiding, or manipulating, you became a problem to them without ever trying. This has made relationships complicated. You're not the type to entertain small talk forever. You naturally pull conversations deeper. You expose inconsistencies without even realizing it, and you force people to confront the parts of themselves they'd rather bury. That's not easy for them, because most people prefer illusions to reality. Still, you can't help but radiate truth. It's not something you do, it's something you are. And that's why they've always reacted so strongly to you. You don't fit into the script, you break it. Number 3. You were never designed to be neutral. You were never designed to be neutral, and that truth explains why your life has always felt different. Some people are born to blend in, to keep peace, to maintain balance, but you were created to tilt it, to disrupt it, to shift it. That's why even when you tried to stay quiet, to play small, to keep your head down, things around you still moved. Your presence alone has weight, and it forces change whether you want it to or not. Neutrality was never in your DNA. You were made to disturb comfort zones, to break up patterns, and to push situations in a direction they would have never gone without you. This is exactly why people often accused you of being too much or too intense. They weren't lying about how you made them feel. They just didn't realize what they were sensing. You carry a kind of spiritual gravity, and whenever you're near, things can't stay the same. People who wanted to stay asleep felt themselves waking up. People who wanted to stay hidden felt exposed. People who wanted to keep peace at all costs felt confronted. It wasn't that you were trying to create conflict. It was that neutrality evaporated in your presence. And this has been both a blessing and a burden. A blessing because you were never meant to waste your life in the background, and without this disruptive energy, you might have been tempted to hide forever. A burden because being designed to tilt balance means you're often the one who gets blamed when things fall apart. The truth is, you don't destroy, you reveal. You show where cracks were already there. You expose what people were trying not to see. But because you're the trigger, they confuse exposure with destruction, and they point at you. The reason you could never fit into the middle ground is because neutrality is safe, and safety is not your calling. You were made to bring impact, to shake what's stagnant, and to force choices where people would rather delay. That's why your life has always carried tension. You're not here to keep the scale even. You're here to tip it. And deep down, everyone around you knows it, which is why they can't treat you like just anyone. You were born to make sides show, and in your world, neutrality doesn't survive. Number 4. They fear your memory more than your voice. They fear your memory more than your voice because your mind holds what most people are desperate to erase. While others move on, forget or rewrite the past to make themselves look cleaner, you've always carried a sharp awareness of what really happened. You don't just go through experiences and let them fade, you archive them. You remember who lied when everyone else believed them. You remember who mistreated you while pretending to love you. You remember the double standards, the betrayals, the whispered truths that never made it to the surface. And that memory, sharper than any spoken word, makes you dangerous in ways you might not even realize. What unnerves people is that they can't manipulate you the way they manipulate others. Most systems, whether in families, communities, or society, survive on selective forgetting. They rely on people agreeing to bury things, to pretend they never happened, to move on without accountability. But you were never built to forget. Even when you forgive, you don't erase. You carry a living record, not out of bitterness, but because your spirit refuses to let lies overwrite truth. That alone exposes the rot beneath polished surfaces. It's not just about memory in the ordinary sense, it's deeper. You remember things not only with your mind, but with your spirit. The atmosphere of events lingers with you. You hold on to details others dismiss, and those details become evidence of patterns others are blind to. While most people get fooled by repetition, you recognize it immediately because you've seen it before. And that terrifies those who depend on secrecy, because your presence alone means their cover story won't hold. This is why people sometimes avoid you or even resent you. It's not because you've spoken against them, but because they can feel that you know. Your silence doesn't protect them the way it protects others, because even in silence your memory testifies against their falsehoods. They sense that you're carrying receipts they can't shred, a living archive that no smear campaign or distraction can erase. And so your memory itself becomes a weapon. Not because you use it recklessly, but because the truth it preserves makes corruption, abuse, and hypocrisy impossible to bury. That's why they fear your memory more than your voice. Your words can be denied, but your knowing cannot. Number 5. You make demons homeless. You make demons homeless, and that's one of the most misunderstood parts of your life. Everywhere you go, you walk in with a light that disturbs what's been living comfortably in the dark. Most environments have parasites, energies, spirits, and mentalities feeding on fear, secrecy, pride, or pain. They thrive because nobody challenges them. But when you step in, they start losing grip. You don't even have to say a word or lift a hand. Your very presence shifts the atmosphere, and suddenly what was hidden starts to feel threatened. That's why hostility often greeted you where it didn't make sense. People who didn't know you disliked you instantly. Teachers, co-workers, even family members treated you as though you had done something wrong before you even opened your mouth. But it was never really you they hated. It was what fell off them when you arrived. The demons, the parasites, the hidden mentalities. They recognized you as eviction notice the moment you walked in. And people who had made peace with those spirits couldn't tell the difference between their identity and the thing living off them, so they treated your presence as an attack. What makes you so unique is that you don't even have to try. Others go through rituals or force confrontation, but you disarm environments by simply existing. It's not performance, it's frequency, it's not effort, it's essence. And that essence doesn't tolerate infestation. Where there is manipulation, you dismantle it. Where there is hypocrisy, you expose it. Where there is oppression, you weaken it. You don't even need to speak on it. People feel it in their bones. This is also why you've been pushed out of places that couldn't afford exposure. Workplaces, friendships, even family gatherings. Suddenly you became the problem, even though you weren't the one stirring drama. The truth is, you didn't bring conflict. You revealed it. You didn't break the peace. You uncovered that there was never peace to begin with. Your life has been a constant reminder that not every battle is fought with fists or words. Some are fought simply by carrying light into places that thought they could stay dark forever. That's why demons lose home when you arrive. They can't coexist with what you carry. And even if the people around you don't fully understand it, their spirits recognize it immediately. With you present, parasites can no longer stay fed. Number 6. Your suffering never produced obedience. Your suffering never produced obedience, and that has been the greatest shock to everything and everyone that tried to take you down. The whole strategy was built on a simple formula. Apply enough pressure, inflict enough pain, and you'll bend. The idea was to break you so early that you'd never question, never resist, never rise. But what they didn't calculate was that your spirit wasn't wired for submission. It was wired for transformation. Every attempt to shatter you only sharpened you instead. Think about it. The moments that should have crushed you ended up teaching you more about yourself than comfort ever could. Where most people fold under betrayal, you learned how to discern character. Where abandonment was supposed to leave you desperate, it built your self-reliance. Where loss was meant to empty you, it carved out space for deeper wisdom. The very scars that were supposed to mark your weakness became the blueprint for your strength. You carry strategies in your bones that can't be taught in classrooms or churches. They can only be born in the furnace of pain. The mistake your enemies made was assuming pain always equals control. In truth, pain only controls those who have no vision. You were never blind. Even when you didn't fully understand your purpose, there was a knowing in you that the suffering couldn't erase. That's why you didn't fold the way they expected. They hit hard, but they didn't hit smart. They attacked the surface, but they couldn't reach the core. This is what sets you apart. Obedience to darkness never took root in you. You didn't become bitter like they hoped. You didn't become numb like they predicted. Instead, you became precise. You know what to avoid, who to trust, how to move, because every scar is now a lesson encoded in your spirit. Your enemies thought they were writing your ending, but they were actually writing your manual. So now, when they look at you, they see the proof of their own failure. You're not a pawn. You're not a puppet. You're the living evidence that the plan to break you only refined you. And that truth is unbearable for those who invested so much in your destruction, because you were never designed to break, only to sharpen. Number 7. You are proof that isolation breeds revelation. You are proof that isolation breeds revelation, and that truth explains the chapters of your life that felt like punishment, but were actually preparation. They tried to exile you socially, spiritually, even within your own family, as if stripping you of connection would silence your voice. They thought being left out, ignored, or pushed aside would shrink you, but instead, that very exile became your university. While others were busy blending in with the crowd, you were being set apart to receive downloads that couldn't survive in noise. In solitude, you discovered things no teacher could have passed down, no book could have captured, no mentor could have explained. It wasn't knowledge you memorized, it was wisdom you absorbed. Being left alone with your own spirit gave you access to dimensions of truth most people never touch, because they're too distracted by the company they keep. They thought isolation would destroy you, but it became the environment where your real self was revealed. This is why people sometimes wonder how you know things you were never taught. They question how your insights cut deeper than the wisdom of those twice your age, or how you carry understanding without credentials to back it up. It's because your revelation wasn't handed down through human systems. It was delivered in silence, through your pain, your prayers, your tears, your reflections. What you know can't be traced to a classroom, a textbook, or a leader. It was born in the wilderness of your exile. That wilderness training gave you a kind of independence that unnerves people. You don't cling to groups for validation. You don't need applause to move forward. You don't wait for permission to walk in truth. When everyone else is scrambling for the next voice to follow, you're already steps ahead because you learned how to hear in stillness. That's why your knowledge feels untraceable to them. They can't track its source because it came from places they avoid. The irony is this: what was meant to silence you gave you a sound that cannot be duplicated. What was meant to erase you gave you a signature that cannot be forged. Your exile didn't rob you, it equipped you, and today you stand as living proof that isolation isn't a grave. For you, it was a classroom where revelation was written directly onto your soul. Number 8. You see people at their core, not their cover. You see people at their core, not their cover, and that ability has shaped nearly every experience of your life. Most of the world operates in masks, faces carefully crafted for survival, approval, or control. People present polished versions of themselves because it's easier to be accepted when the truth stays hidden. But for you, the mask is never enough. You are cursed or blessed with a kind of vision that peers through the surface. Arrogance doesn't impress you because you see the hunger trembling beneath it. Aggression doesn't intimidate you because you sense the fear driving it. Even wealth and success don't blind you, because you recognize the emptiness that often hides behind shiny facades. This gift has always made you different. While others get caught up in appearances, you can't stop noticing the deeper reality. That's why fake friendships never lasted with you. You always sensed when loyalty was performance. That's why certain relationships collapsed quickly. You could spot the hidden agenda long before it revealed itself. And that's why people sometimes accused you of being too suspicious or too intense. In truth, you were simply unwilling to settle for illusions. The danger of this gift is that it makes you disruptive to systems built on deception. Entire power structures depend on people believing the mask without asking questions. Leaders need blind followers, abusers need compliant victims, manipulators need trusting targets. But you can't be deceived for long. Even when someone manages to fool you briefly, something inside eventually clicks, and you see through the act. And once you see, you can't unsee. That's what makes you dangerous in their eyes, not because you expose everything openly, but because they know you're not fooled. This has also left you feeling isolated at times. While others praise a person, you're often the only one feeling the shadow behind their smile. While others celebrate, you sense corruption quietly lurking. It's a lonely place seeing what others can't or won't see, but it's also what keeps you free. You're not bound to surface-level games because your vision doesn't let you be trapped there. At the core of it, your sight is both protection and weapon. It protects you from being enslaved by appearances, and it makes you a threat to those who survive by maintaining illusions. You don't just see people as they want to be seen, you see them as they are. And that truth alone is enough to change every room you walk into. Number 9. Your destiny outpaces generational curses. Your destiny outpaces generational curses, and that truth explains why your life has felt heavier than most. Bloodlines often get caught in repeating cycles. Poverty passed down like an heirloom, abuse normalized as discipline, addiction disguised as coping, silence defended as keeping the family together. These patterns become prisons that feel unbreakable because generation after generation accepts them as normal. But when you were born, something shifted. You didn't just inherit the environment, you were born as the interruption. That interruption has not been easy. From early on, you probably felt the tension of being different from the rest of your family. Where they accepted dysfunction as life, you questioned it. Where they stayed quiet, you spoke up. Where they gave in, you resisted. That resistance wasn't rebellion for its own sake. It was the first sign of your role as the one who would end cycles, not repeat them. And ending cycles means carrying battles that those before you either couldn't fight or chose not to. This is why your struggles often felt more intense than others in your family. You weren't just dealing with your own challenges, you were dealing with the weight of what ran through generations. The poverty you fought wasn't just about your finances. It was centuries of lack pressing against your prosperity. The rejection you endured wasn't just personal, it was the echo of silenced voices before you. The battles against fear, shame, or addiction weren't just about you. They were the accumulated chains of a bloodline that expected you to wear them too. But your destiny refuses to be confined by what came before. You were born to outpace it, to move faster than the curse, to carry light stronger than the darkness that thought it owned your family name. And that's why you've been targeted so heavily, because systems of control, both seen and unseen, rely on inherited dysfunction to keep entire bloodlines trapped. You, however, are the one-person exit door. You are the crack in the pattern, the living proof that cycles can end with a single soul who refuses to bow. Every step you take forward is more than personal success. It's generational victory. Your rise means no child after you has to start from the same pit. Your healing means future voices won't be silenced the same way. And your destiny, running faster than the curses chasing you, proves that what enslaved your family for centuries has no power over the future you're creating. Number 10. You don't need permission to be great. You don't need permission to be great, and that fact alone separates you from the majority. Most people spend their whole lives waiting for validation, waiting for applause, waiting for some external authority to stamp them as worthy. They chase degrees, titles, and recognition not because they truly need them, but because they've been taught that greatness is only official when someone else says so. You've never operated that way. You create without waiting, move without approval, and step forward without asking if you're allowed. That alone unsettles people because it bypasses the gatekeepers who are used to controlling who rises and who doesn't. For you, greatness has never been tied to access someone else granted. It's been an inner compulsion that won't let you sit still. That's why you've often been misunderstood or even resented. People couldn't understand how you had the audacity to walk in confidence without their validation. They were offended because your refusal to beg exposed how much they relied on permission for their own sense of worth. It wasn't arrogance, it was freedom. You knew instinctively that if you waited for approval, you'd wait forever, because systems are designed to delay chosen souls indefinitely. This refusal to wait at doors is why you've faced so much resistance. When others are lining up politely, you're building your own entrance. When others are competing for scraps, you're creating something from nothing. That makes you unpredictable and uncontrollable, which terrifies those who thrive on hierarchy. They don't know how to handle someone who isn't desperate for their approval. You're proof that influence and impact don't come from the top down. They come from within, from a soul that recognizes its own authority. And this is what makes your greatness undeniable. It doesn't matter if they ignore you, reject you, or even try to shut you out. You're not standing in their line. You're not depending on their system. You're not bound by their timeline. You don't wait at doors. You build your own, and once it's built, the same people who denied you end up knocking, confused by how you did it without them. That's the essence of your design. Greatness that doesn't ask permission because it never needed it in the first place. Number 11. Your spirit calls out hidden contracts. Your spirit calls out hidden contracts. And this has been one of the deepest reasons you've faced resistance your entire life. Many people don't realize that they're living under agreements. Some made out loud, some made in silence. Agreements with fear that keep them small. Agreements with corruption that trade integrity for comfort. Agreements with trauma that teach them to normalize abuse. These contracts might not be written on paper, but they're binding all the same. They dictate how people think, how they move, and what they accept. Most of the time, these contracts stay hidden because nobody around them questions it. But when you show up, everything changes. You carry a presence that announces expiration. Without saying a word, your spirit declares, the deal is up. People who've lived their whole lives under chains suddenly feel uncomfortable in your presence. Their excuses don't sound as convincing. Their compromises don't feel as safe. Even if you never confront them directly, your energy disrupts the quiet agreements they've made with darkness. And that disruption is terrifying for them because it forces them to face a truth they've avoided for years. They don't have to stay bound. This is why you've been resisted since childhood. Your spirit was announcing truth long before you even understood it. Teachers, family members, friends, even authority figures reacted strongly to you because something in you challenged the contracts they were living under. You reminded them of what they gave up, of what they settled for, of what they silenced in themselves. And because facing that reality was too heavy, they redirected the discomfort toward you. You became the problem, not because of what you did, but because of what you represented. It's not easy carrying this kind of presence. It isolates you, because many people would rather stay bound than break their agreements. But it also confirms your purpose. You weren't born to blend into systems of corruption or cycles of fear. You were born to confront them, not always with words, but with a spirit that makes hidden contracts impossible to hide. Wherever you stand, false agreements are exposed and chains start rattling. That's why your life has been marked by opposition. You've always been the reminder that no contract with darkness is final. Number 12. You don't need to be liked to lead. You don't need to be liked to lead. And that has always been one of the most unsettling truths about you. In this world, leadership is usually purchased with charm, manipulation, or fear. People climb ladders by keeping others entertained, intimidated, or indebted. Popularity often becomes the currency of influence, and without it, most people never get a chance to be heard. But you were born different. Your influence doesn't come from how many people like you. It comes from the weight of your presence. You don't have to beg for attention or stage manage approval. You lead even when no one is clapping, and that makes you uncontrollable. What unnerves people most is how your impact continues to grow, even in seasons where you're hated or misunderstood. Normally, rejection shrinks people. It silences them, breaks their confidence, makes them retreat. But in your case, rejection only refines you. It burns away the excess and forces you into sharper clarity. Ironically, the very seasons where people tried hardest to destroy your reputation were often the seasons where your authority grew the most. You became stronger, not smaller. That doesn't make sense to the world because their system says, no followers, no influence. But you are proof that true authority doesn't need an audience, it simply is. This is also why you've had so many strange encounters with envy. People see that you don't chase approval, yet approval finds you anyway. They see that you don't beg for followers, yet your words and presence carry a weight they can't imitate. That weight comes from authenticity, from the fact that your influence wasn't manufactured through gimmicks. It was forged in struggle, solitude, and alignment with a higher calling. And because no one gave it to you, no one can take it away. The beauty of not needing to be liked is that it frees you. You're not trapped by people's opinions, not enslaved by their applause, not silenced by their disapproval. You can move when they boo just as boldly as when they cheer. That's why you are such a threat to systems that control through popularity. You can't be bribed with acceptance, and you can't be blackmailed with rejection. You lead because leadership is woven into your very being, and no level of hate or misunderstanding can cancel what you carry. Number 13. You are a walking time bomb to falsehood. You are a walking time bomb to falsehood, and this is why your life has never been quiet or unnoticed for long. Corruption, lies, and manipulation thrive on time. Their only real strategy is delay, keeping secrets buried just long enough for people to forget, for witnesses to die off, or for truth to lose its sharpness. The hope of every deceiver is simple. If they can outlast exposure, they win. But when you step into the picture, that timeline collapses. Your presence alone shortens the life expectancy of a lie. Things that would have stayed hidden for decades suddenly unravel in front of you, and that's not because you're looking for trouble. It's because your very existence carries an expiration date for falsehood. People sense this before you even open your mouth. It's why environments grow tense when you enter. It's why people who've built their identities or power on deception feel uncomfortable around you. You accelerate exposure. You carry an atmosphere that makes masks slip faster, makes corruption trip over itself, makes hypocrisy reveal its cracks. What others could hide in the dark for years, your spirit exposes in weeks, sometimes in days. That's why you've always been labeled as a threat, not because you harm people, but because you collapse illusions before they're ready to fall apart. This has followed you since childhood. Even when you were young, adults noticed how quickly pretense dissolved in your presence. You might not have had the words then, but you had the energy. Lies stumbled when you came near. Secrets felt unsafe around you. And because exposure means accountability, people with something to lose saw you as dangerous before you even understood why. It's a lonely gift, because the world often punishes truth-bearers more than it punishes liars. But it also proves your role. You weren't designed to keep illusions alive. You weren't born to protect what's false just because it's comfortable. You were born to speed up the collapse of deception. And though that role paints a target on your back, it also confirms your power. Lies may hope to last forever, but you carry a countdown in your spirit. Wherever you go, falsehoods start ticking toward their inevitable end. Number 14. You are a constant reminder that they failed. You are a constant reminder that they failed, and that truth cuts deeper than any weapon you could ever carry. Every breath you take, every step you make, every new day you rise is living evidence that all the traps, betrayals, and plots against you didn't work. People who invested energy, time, and resources into your downfall expected silence, not survival. They expected collapse, not continuation. Yet here you are, standing. That fact alone humiliates them, because your existence testifies louder than any argument. Their control was never as strong as they believed. This is why your life has been under pressure since birth. To some, you were never just another person, you were an assignment. They saw in you a spark, a resilience, a defiance to their systems of control. And from the beginning their obsession has been to extinguish it. But what they miscalculated is that everything they threw at you only became part of your proof. The betrayals didn't break you, they became part of your wisdom. The losses didn't erase you, they carved depth into your soul. The pain didn't deform you, it sharpened your clarity. Every attempt to bury you has backfired because your survival itself exposes them as powerless. This is the silent war you've lived through. You don't need to fight them with swords or speeches. Just waking up, breathing, laughing, and moving forward is a declaration of victory. To those who plotted your downfall, it's unbearable. It eats away at them because it reminds them that their power had limits. They failed, and you are the walking evidence of that failure. That's why their hostility never seems to die down. It's not that you're doing anything to them in the present, it's that your very existence keeps dragging up the past they'd rather forget. It's a strange kind of authority you carry, the authority of survival. Most people don't realize how threatening that is, but to anyone who lives by control, survival is rebellion. Your life, unbroken and still unfolding, is a constant statement they can't silence. That's why you've been pursued since birth. Not because of what you've done, but because of what you prove. Their control is an illusion, and no amount of scheming can erase what was divinely meant to endure. Every thread of your story points to the same undeniable truth. You were never ordinary, and that's why life never treated you as such. From birth, resistance shadowed you, not because you were weak, but because you were marked. You have endured betrayals, isolation, falsehoods, envy, and invisible wars, yet each attempt to crush you only revealed the flaw in their design. You are not built to be broken. You are built to expose, to end cycles, to awaken what others fear to face. You are the reminder that deception has an expiration date. You are the unshakable proof that curses can be outpaced, that leadership doesn't require applause, and that survival itself is a weapon. Every scar you carry is not a record of defeat, but a receipt of victories. Evidence that no trap, no lie, and no contract of darkness has ever been enough to stop you. The fact that you still rise, still speak, still walk with authority is a humiliation to every force that thought it could erase you. The world calls you dangerous, but the truth is simpler. You are free. And freedom, real freedom, terrifies anything built on control. That is why your presence shakes rooms, why your memory unsettles the guilty, why your vision cuts deeper than their masks. You were never meant to blend in. You were meant to disrupt, to reveal, to carry the kind of authority that doesn't ask permission to exist. So let them call you what they will. Let them plot, whisper, or even rage. At the end of the day, their greatest fear is already reality. You survived, and not just survived, but sharpened. You are not living proof of their power. You are living proof that they failed. And from here on, every breath you take, every step you make, and every truth you release will keep reminding the world. You cannot destroy what was chosen to endure. Family, if this message spoke to you, don't just keep it to yourself. Let it breathe. Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear your voice. Hit that like button so this truth reaches more eyes, and share it with someone who needs a reminder that survival is victory. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe and join this journey, because we're only just beginning to uncover what's been hidden. Stay connected. Your presence here isn't by accident. God bless you.